What's going on, guys? Dr. Matt here, host of the Rocks Lab podcast. On today with co-host Greyson Kilgore. What's going on, Grayson?
Hey Matt, things are good over here. Check out my backdrop.
Love it. The center wall balls right behind you. Get the kettlebells and sandbags, all three.
And sandbags. Yep, there they are. Yeah, I'm doing good, man. How are you?
Doing good, doing good. No complaints. It's summertime. It's hot. We're getting after it with training. Yeah, things are good.
Yeah, man. Absolutely. Um, yeah, summer over here. Lots of training in the heat. Practicing my fueling a lot in long sessions. So it's been a ton of fun. A ton of fun over here.
Last we spoke, actually, that was one of the things you had mentioned was because it was in New York, it was
Hmm.
outside, and you're like, oh, I wish I had gotten some heat training in. So
Yeah.
you're hitting that now.
Oh, I'm in the middle of it. Yeah. A lot of what I'm doing right now is in response to like my experience in New York of being like a little too warm, a little bit underfueled, and trying to master that whole experience. So summer
Sure.
is great for that.
Perfect, perfect. So there's a couple things we wanted to talk about today. I know the big thing, the elephant in the room, as they say, is that's on social media is the HYROX rule changes.
Hmm.
Um, so can you kind of break down what some of those are and maybe how that will impact people?
Yeah, I think what it is, they've announced a handful of rule changes that really aren't that significant or maybe even that different from what they've had in the past. Like some of it really seems like reiterations of rules that already existed, like making sure people know on the row, for example, that your feet have to be in the straps before you touch the handle. You have to stay seated until you reach 1,000 meters. All of those things, most of the rules are a reiteration. One
Mm,
interesting change that maybe be worth noting is they made a rule saying that there's going to be a penalty for if you like wait at the back of the start tunnel and like, but I guess people were like waiting and letting everybody run away. And then once there's like a clear running lane, then they would start and get like a fast start over the timing mat. Um,
gotcha.
I imagine that was probably just more obnoxious for their like start timing than it is for like I don't know how much of an advantage people were getting from that.
Sure.
Maybe a clear running lane for the first 200 meters. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I guess that kind of makes sense. Like even for me, like looking at like triathlons, like starting at the back of the pack isn't typically advantageous if you know you're
Yeah.
going to be passing a lot of people. But I guess if you like wait a really long time and then you have a
Hmm.
really fast start, but then you still have to be swerving around people, I could see how that could be potentially dangerous if you have someone
Sure.
really fast trying to swerve around people, but also obnoxious for the race. For the
Yeah.
organized.
I don't think it makes sense. Hyrox is not a race where you need to be like accelerating hard off of the line, right?
Right, right.
Most of us, and I think we're going to get to some pacing talk later, but
Yeah.
maybe most people would benefit if they just walked the first 50 meters.
Right. Right. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and that reminds me, I saw a clip actually earlier today of there was a girl, you may have seen this, who posted how she was crossing the finish line and she got bumped out of the way by two guys who were trying to shoot for their PR.
Ooh,
And she like, physically got bumped. So, like I don't think it was intentional by any means, but you
yeah.
could see like the video of her being like like and but
Oh
getting
man.
these two guys just racing for PRs, and it kind of like brings to the topic of like, to a certain extent, yes, if you're trying to go for a PR, you're trying to go for PR, but still everyone's there to have fun. We don't need to
Oh
be
yeah.
people out of the way.
Yeah, man, I hear you. It's a tricky balance actually, I think, because it is a competition. And most of the jostling actually happens, I think, that I've experienced, anyways, is they have a fast lane for
Mm,
people who are like running much faster. The trick is everyone thinks that they're faster than the people that they're seeing in front of them. So it's like if you're passing somebody, you move into the fast lane, but you might not know that the men's pro heat just got released behind you and we're coming in at a 3:30 pace, you know? Um, so it's tricky because like I've bumped people who have been in the fast lane and like fought my way through crowds, and in that moment, and I've also been passed by people and bumped by faster runners in the fast lane who are like coming out on their first lap. And it's funny because in the moment, you think you're the fastest person in your circle because you can't see who's coming behind you, right?
Right.
So that's another tricky area where it's like, yeah, like I get people being competitive. Sometimes a little bump happens. I think in general, like, yes, men's doubles racers or two men racing each other should probably watch out for like a smaller female athlete crossing the line. I'd feel
Yeah.
so bad if I was those guys.
Oh man, yeah, yeah. Especially they had it like on video, like for the finish line, like because that's where people get their photos is crossing the finish line.
I
So
know.
her photos with somebody like elbowing her, it's
That's
like,
kind of
oh
that's kind of an awesome. I'd be proud of that photo though. That's pretty
yeah,
cool.
true, true.
Yeah.
Um,
So
that
I think one of the most significant rule change that we should cover is burpee broad jumps. Have you heard about the burpee change at all?
so. Tell me, because I saw the Hunter McIntyre issue with the
Yes.
with the card. He got carded because his hand placement wasn't where it should be. It seemed like that was the
Hmm.
controversy. Yeah.
Yeah. Interestingly, the rule that they changed doesn't have anything to do with hand placement. I think that's fascinating. Um, the Hunter McIntyre issue was basically I went back and watched it to try to figure out like what the judge was watching for, and they called it overreaching. I think part of the judging problem in general is that if you're an athlete and you don't understand what you're getting penalized for, it's very hard to fix it. So I think that was part of the controversy with Hunter, is that it kind of sounds like, based on his reports, that he wasn't sure why he was getting yellow cards and
Uh,
then eventually a red card. So that's part of the issue. But when it comes to overreaching, what it looked like he was about to put his hands down within the like proper distance between his toes and the end of that like 1 foot mark. But then, and actually, almost all of us do this. We should watch this when we do burpees, because right as he would kick his legs back to like actually land, he'd naturally scoot his hands forward just a little bit. And so I went and like reviewed some videos of my own burpees and realized like, oh, I actually do that too. I think I'm about to put my hands like straight down. And then as
yeah,
I kick my legs back, I think we naturally counterbalance with our arms. Like if our legs are shooting one way, we shoot our hands kind of the other way as a counterbalance. And we
sure,
might be overreaching even when we think we're putting them down in the right spot.
sure, sure. Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. To me, it's an interesting backlash as well because in HYROX, that I mean, the original controversy that was like, oh, people aren't getting low enough for wall balls. The judging is it's too lenient. It's too lenient. And now we're
Mhm.
seeing the opposite of like, oh, they're being too strict with the judging. It's like, which one is it? It's like, but I think that's part of the somewhat the growing pains of like, all right, there's a lot of people doing this at a very high level. Like, let's make sure things are standardized, and then you're just they're figuring it out.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think in general we can zoom out a little bit and think about all sports that have referees and judges. And like, if you
Yeah.
were to go and watch the Super Bowl and your team won, you'd be like, great game. If your team lost, you'd be like, those refs sucked, right?
Yeah. It's always the ref's fault.
You'd be like, it wasn't my team's fault. It was really bad refs making dumb calls, you know?
Right.
Uh,
Right.
Unfortunately, that is the nature of sport. But the change that is actually quite interesting and actually is better for athletes isn't really significant in terms of your execution, but it's a kind of, in my mind, that it's actually a message to judges, and it's actually this. So what they change is that like on landing and takeoff, your feet can be like slightly staggered. So the old rule used to be that you had to be like foot, foot, jump, and everything had to be like perfectly in line. In fact, if you did this and then this, that was a penalty. But then if you did this and then this, that was still a penalty. Even though there's no advantage to
Mm,
jumping with 1 foot behind, they were very strict, saying your toes had to be like lined up for your jump.
sure.
Now they're saying there can be a 5 centimeter difference here, which in my mind, like no athlete is going to be like aiming for a 5 centimeter advantage. I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
most athletes are still going to try to match their feet. I think the idea is that they're saying like, if you try to match your feet and you kind of don't, we're not going to ding you for that now.
Right.
So I
Right.
think it like leaves space for more athletic movement so that like, it kind of like gets the judge off your back just a little bit.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, it was an interesting like just when they rewound the footage, I'm looking at Hunter's burpees. I'm like, man. I mean, I didn't know the rules super specifically. I'm like, man, those look pretty good. It was
Yeah,
tough. It was tough.
yeah, and I think sometimes people think that new rules get released directly after like drama at the World Championship. Maybe
Sure.
that's true. I think there's also a chance that the season was just over and it's a good time to change the rules at the end, like
Sure.
before the
Yeah.
new season starts.
Yep. Yep.
So it was like in their window. And maybe it was HYROX wanting to say like, okay, let's get these new rules out right away, so it looks like we're listening, or like, it looks like we care.
Sure. Hey, we've heard your response. All right,
Hmm.
here's what we're gonna do about it. That makes sense.
Yeah,
What was the penalty? What was the end up being the penalty for that? Do you remember how long?
15 seconds. Yeah, a 15
Well,
second.
for most people, that's not a break for their event, but for that, it was unfortunately was for him at the finish line.
Yeah. Yeah, I actually talk to my athletes about that a lot because it feels like the race is very different from like an Elite 15 experience to your open divisions, but the way that you interact with your judge, I think really matters across the board. So, like for Hunter, for example, stop like slowing down to try to understand what your judge is saying it feels like interference as it is. It escalates your heart rate, it messes with your mind, it makes you second guess every rep, particularly if you don't understand why you're getting no repped. So I think
Right.
it really does impact an elite athlete at a high level. And then plus a 15-second penalty in that race is the difference in 4 spots. Like the race was so tight. 15
Yeah.
seconds is a death sentence to anybody who's trying to actually win the world championship. So it's really significant on the elite side of things. But one of the things I tell my athletes all the time is that like if you are getting dinged for something by a judge, you're going to save time and stress by taking a moment to understand your judge and ask for clarity or ask them to be louder. Like if you're confused, seek clarity immediately
Right.
rather than stressing and accruing like more penalties as you go. Um,
Right.
that
Right.
typically, because like the worst possible scenario is that like you don't understand why you're getting a penalty and you stack up multiple penalties in a station. Like you're at 15, 30,
Right.
45, a minute, and you're just unsure of what's happening. That happens mostly in the wall balls when you're getting no repped. Even on the elite and pro side of racing, I've heard guys say like, hey, I got 40 no reps, but I didn't know why. I'm like,
Right.
well, it would take less time to stop and communicate with your judge and say like, what are you no repping me for, rather than to do 40 extra reps and just like get angry and keep repping. So
Sure.
I think
Sure.
I think every athlete can potentially salvage their race by trying to get clarity from their judge as quickly as possible.
Totally, totally. Um, there's another. I saw another clip recently of one of the. It might have been Elite 15, or it may have been one of others who didn't unstrap or didn't wait till the meters reached 1,000. It was either on the skier or the rower, and he got a
Ski
pretty.
with Cole.
So what did that penalty end up being?
Yeah, that is probably the bigger controversy right now. So Cole Learn is a Canadian athlete and a legitimately awesome dude. We love him, and he. And this is like, so I'll tell it from his perspective because he's been very vocal about it. He said that his ski erg had reached 999 meters, and his judge said go. So he went. He did what his judge said. And then later they stopped him on the track and said, you're disqualified for leaving the ski erg before it rolled over to 1,000 meters. So I think the majority of the HYROX world thinks that's an unfair judgment, particularly because the rule book actually gives a range of potential penalties, which is
Mm,
bananas in my mind. It said like it could be up to like a couple minutes of penalties or a
sure,
disqualification for not completing the station.
sure.
So the reason the world is wildly upset about that is because uh, the previous world champion, Tim Vinish, did 99 wall balls and his judge told him to go. So he went and he didn't. So he, like, same scenario. He didn't complete the station. and they gave Tim a time penalty and didn't disqualify him, while Cole was given a complete disqualification and no time penalty in a moment that really only affected his race by literally a maximum of 2 seconds. There was no dramatic advantage gained in that moment.
Right,
So
right.
I think the HYROX community is pretty angry on Cole's behalf, and I am too. I've heard a couple people say like, well, he's a pro, so he should know better. I'm like, man, you don't get it when you're in the heat of a race and
Sure.
you're a referee is saying go. You're like,
Right.
I'm gonna go. So
Yeah, right.
I'm gonna go ahead and say that was an unfair call on Cole's behalf, and I hope to never see anything like that happen again to an athlete. It was just wild. But I guess the warning to athletes is like, hey, make sure you see a 1,000 on your screen before you
Yeah.
take off.
Right, right. Yeah, that's tough. That's especially with the wall balls example. Like, if you miss one rep, that makes more like I mean, I still don't think that should be a disqualification. But I could see an argument more for that being disqualified because you didn't finish the race technically.
Right, you didn't finish the thing. Like,
versus versus the rollover happens naturally between reps.
yes,
Like,
yeah.
technically, you always go over 1,000 regardless. It's like
Yeah,
so.
no, that is everyone's argument is like, Cole did the work for the skier to hit 1,000 meters. He
Yeah.
just left a touch early when his judge told him to. But like
Right.
99 reps is not 100 reps. It's just
Right.
not. So,
Right.
and that's not, I'm never going to be on the side of like blaming the athletes. And
Sure. Sure.
I'm honestly like, I want to be gracious to judges as well. I know that it's a tense role to be in.
Sure. Sure.
I just think that there's like a disqualification should require a lot more of a problem than leaving a ski a touch
Yeah.
early.
Oh yeah. There should be some blatant unsportsmanlike
Yeah,
behaviors or
right?
skipping
Yeah.
something or like cheating. Yeah, the disqual that's especially at that level at that race. It's
Oh my
like
God.
that's tough. That's tough. But I mean, yeah, going back to what I said like originally is like I feel like people now can't use the High Rocks judges, they're too lenient. It's like, well, I think they've kind of flipped. They're a little bit strict now, but yeah, I think the pendulum will probably right itself, and I hope so after this season and into next season.
Right. But the judging piece is really messy, and they've got to figure out really, I think what needs to happen is they probably just need to adjust movement standards so that it's not so dang hard for a judge to make the right or wrong call. I think there's other ways to accomplish a station that takes like some of the minutia out of it. Like sometimes judges like aren't even sure. Like this is absurd. But one of my athletes was reporting to me that they were doing reps and on wall balls and everything was fine. And then all of a sudden, a head judge came up and tapped their judge on the shoulder and said, "Hey, you need to be no repping more," which is like that's a very vague.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if that means like, "Hey, that's a no rep them for that rep," or just like, "Hey, in general, hand out more no reps." And then all of a sudden, after the head judge tapped his judge on the shoulder, he started getting more no reps and didn't like understand what was different about his reps at all. So that's a massive problem, I think. If there's just like if there's a blanket statement of like, hey, we all need to hand out more no reps, like no, like give no reps to actual no reps. Let's not just like spread them out amongst the field.
Right.
That's the
Right.
opposite of what we want.
Yeah, in a perfect scenario, if everybody does every rep perfectly, there should be zero no reps, which is fine. It's
Yeah.
like we don't need to arbitrarily have a certain amount of no reps we give during every
Yeah.
race.
Man, so this conversation actually leads me to thinking, like, from a coach's perspective, I want to protect the experience of my athletes. So I want to equip them with the tools to make sure that they can manage the majority of their race, and so that there's less opportunities to need to like blame a judge.
Sure.
So we're really reaching a point where like you need to be able to squat to where your hip crease is well below your knee. And so there's a whole mobility element there. And I tell people like, if your mobility is struggling, you should be spending some time with like one of these heavy kettlebells in a front rack position where you're sitting, your like sit bones go down, no like butt wink, no rounding of the lumbar spine, knees are going out, and you're like actually working on getting into a proper squat position every day if you have to. But Matt, you're a PT. What else should people be doing to like
Ooh.
make sure they can squat with a hip crease below the knee?
I am a big fan of doing. There's a series of 3 drills I call the Chad Vaughn drills because it was drills that I had learned from him out in a camp we did in Tennessee, and he had a couple of drills that he taught for squat depth for Olympic
Yeah.
lifting, but they carry over for squat depth for everything.
Yeah, tell me.
One,
We need to know.
one of the drills is using heel lifts.
Yeah.
So this takes, if obviously ankle mobility is one piece of it, and for a lot of
Hmm.
people it's a big piece of it. But to
Yeah.
take that out for a second, if your
Hmm.
mobility is limited in your hips and your knees, doing
Hmm.
some squats or practicing some squats with your heels elevated or heels lifted
Yeah.
can help you work and get more comfortable into that deeper squat. Again, it won't fix any ankle stuff, but you
Right.
can work on one thing at a time to help overall
Right.
squat. So I love those. I love the heel elevated squats.
Yeah.
Um, if it's a postural or motor control or like core strength issue,
Hmm.
which for some people it is, doing a counterweight squat he also taught, which is holding a plate, 10-pound plate, 15-pound plate. As you're squatting down, you're simultaneously pushing that weight.
Oh, very good.
So it
Hmm.
helps you be able to sit with a counterweight
Yeah.
into that squat. And then the same thing, as you come up, you're pulling that weight back in. So
Okay.
that's another really nice one.
Let me pause you there to explain why that's so brilliant. A lot of times, um, and when we're doing wall balls, people be too far back and they end up catching out here, and they get a
Correct.
ton of no reps because the catch out here forces them into more of a hinge rather than a squat. So they're
Correct.
not actually sitting like sit bones down. There's more like your butt is going back. The weight is out here, and they're not strong enough to control this position to catch here, bring it in, and then still hit that depth. So that drill you're talking about is actually like wildly applicable to HYROX. I think it's absolutely perfect.
Love it. It's funny you mentioned that. Just go off on a mini tangent as well. When we were in DC and watching some of the heats going through. The amount of different ways that people were doing the wall balls was fascinating to me. Some
Yeah.
people were going all arms. Some people were
Mhm.
hinging over like a crazy amount. I'm like, oh, if we just had like 10 minutes with each of these people, not even, to go over some
Yeah.
quick tips and techniques on how to do their wall
Yeah.
balls, like, especially at the end of the race, they could have been just so much better off.
Hmm. Man,
um,
I think about like one thing I'm working on personally, as you've seen me lose, like I've lost spots, like the difference between second and third or third and fourth by 2 wall balls. And a lot of that comes down to like energy system management. And like for me personally, I came in pretty gassed, pushed hard to catch up, gained like 7 to 10 reps on the guy ahead of me, but couldn't close.
mm,
The other problem though, 6 to 7 no reps. Like if I'm losing each race by 2 wall balls, but I have 6 to 7 no reps, I want to have like the proprioception, the calm and the stability to have no reps. Like I want to control my environment to make sure my squat depth is far below what they want, and I'm hitting that target so dead center that I'm not like accruing 6 to 10 no reps for no reason. That would have saved both of my races, you know? So you're totally right. Like the mobility piece here, the skill, the understanding of like how to even properly squat is going to go so far when you have to do it 100 times at the end of a race.
yeah. And to finish off that for that third drill is called a pole squat.
Hmm.
So in a gym, grabbing the squat rack or
Hmm.
the rig, and make sure it's stable, or literally a pole
Yeah.
or maybe a door frame, and you're
Hmm.
using that pole to come down. So you're crawling down into your squat, and then
Cool.
holding a really nice. I'll give you like a
Here we
really
go.
nice, just deep squat position, and just holding
Yeah.
that, and they hold it for like 10, 20, 30 seconds. Just literally just getting used to it, how
Yeah.
that deep position feels, and using it more
Yeah.
like as a mobility drill or a stretch versus a
Hmm.
strengthening drill, obviously. But that was kind of the third round off of those three drills. But those are my go-tos.
I think it's brilliant. I think it's absolutely brilliant. Here's the thing that actually makes you faster at wall balls. If the energy systems and the fueling management is done correctly, really fast wall balls comes from how fast you can come out of the bottom. Like, can you drive power from that deep squat position? And it's like, I've always heard it said that like you can't drive power without stability first. So if you aren't even comfortable or stable in that low squat position, it's a very unlikely that you're going to be able to drive power from that deep squat. So when I'm doing wall balls day in and day out, I've got two thoughts on my mind right now. Is one, I want to hit depth and bounce out of depth fairly quickly. Like I notice my reps get a lot faster if I'm so powerful in that deep squat position that I can bounce out of it fairly fast. And then I want like a second kick, almost like you know when you're doing a kettlebell swing and there's like the last moment of glute engagement that like gets the bell to really come up. I want that at the top of my squat. So I'm thinking about like driving hard out of the bottom and then having like another like glute activation moment at the top. That's not like an unhinging necessarily, but it's just like a little pop. And I've noticed if I do those two things really well, I save my shoulders dramatically, which your shoulders are the part that quit on you in the wall balls first.
What do you like? Do you like when people do wall balls, they leave their shoulders in the air, catch it, and then bring it back down, or do you more like the out to the side catch? You've seen both those techniques?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think what makes the most sense to me is to try to live with your arms as low as possible. Now I've got like a bunch of photos of me at races where like my hands are way up. But honestly, like the more tired you get, the more arm you're putting like into that push. I think that I want to I'm going to shoot the ball up. And actually one thing I've really been practicing is to use like a little thumb flick. So I'm going to drive out of the bottom. I'm going to pop at the top and give it a little thumb flick. And early on, that takes a lot less out of my arm. So I actually usually don't have to fully extend. I can just go and get it up. So it's like I'm like popping from my thumbs right here.
Sure.
And then I'm trying to I want to catch the ball here. A lot of people are trying to catch it with arms extended.
Right.
We've talked about this before. We're down this route again. So I do think it is better to reload the arms to here. And as soon as it hits this like sturdy, stable environment, then I'm going to bounce and go. One of the reasons I think that's really valuable is because let's say the average person wall balls between 5 and 7 minutes. Imagine just standing for 5 to 7 minutes with your arms over your head. Like you'd get tired, right? You'd be like, man, this is like my shoulders are legitimately tired. Now imagine slowly lowering something back to you for 5 to 7 minutes. Even like that's not even the part that counts for anything. I'm not getting reps for slowly lowering a wall ball back to me. So instead, like I'm gonna catch it here, boom, it's sturdy. I didn't have like any eccentric load. There's immediate impact, right? Like it's gonna hit. I'm gonna feel it here, boom, immediate impact. But I'm braced. My core is ready. I hit the bottom of that wall ball, boom, I'm gonna shoot it again.
And some of this too is like is I think for sure skill, like how accurate you are with it. How often is that wall ball just hitting you right in the mouth?
All the time. Yeah. All the time.
Yeah. Same. You just get slobbery on the wall ball.
Yeah, I think when I'm really dialed, I can catch it and just like touch my chin to it and then shoot it again without ever like getting a weird bounce. But
yeah,
we all get the weird bounce. It's part of it.
And I feel like that just comes with just repetition of just like your skill of just like the accuracy of where that ball is.
Yeah,
the other one's going all over the place.
Yeah, we very naturally transition from new rules to judging.
Yes.
To techniques to make sure your wall balls are nice.
Yes.
So that you don't have judging issues. Look at
that. This, one more. I have one more, just out of my own curiosity, question on wall balls. Yeah. Do you like? So, when I usually go, I feel like I end up doing like a little flick too. But do you? And I've seen some people hold it like this. I've seen some people hold it a little more, almost like a volleyball.
Yeah.
A little bit. Do you have a preferred hand position that you like?
I'm kind of playing with that a little bit too right now. Some people squat better with elbows in, which
Sure.
naturally moves your hands to the outside of this ball. So elbows in means my hand position like this. A little bit of elbows out means I'm more in like a volleyball set position.
Yeah.
I think it's elbows out is a little more tiring on the shoulders. So I think when you go elbows in, you can create a more like stable shoulder joint because you're engaging your lats to like lock that ball into place.
Totally.
Elbows out lets me use my thumbs a little bit more for that flick, like I'm
Sure.
actually setting a volleyball.
Sure.
So watching, like, it's very interesting to watch because I think the elites have different techniques. Alexander Rankovic, probably one of the best in the world at wall balls, looks like he's catching it just like on his palms and like delivering it mostly with his arms and not a lot of like thumb or finger engagement at all. I'm curious if that's actually the best. He's the best in the world, so it's hard to question him. And maybe
Sure.
he's doing more. Maybe I'm not seeing it right. But
Sure.
when I was a decathlete in college, we threw the shot put a lot, and they wanted to make sure that like trying to throw a shot put off your palm, it's fine. But where you really get a lot of power is if you let the shot put roll off of like these three fingers, and you have like a flick to finish. And I think the same is true when we're setting a volleyball, right? Like there's like a little pop there. So I've been
Yeah.
playing with like this athletic engagement of like, what is a minimal like flick of the wrist gonna do to like move that ball for me? And is it worth the trade-off of having my elbows a little bit more out so that I can flick from the thumb and can my shoulders handle that? So ultimately, I think all of that is secondary to coming in with enough energy to do the wall balls.
Yes, totally. Because you have to,
The wall balls. Oh, go ahead.
if you have to break a bunch of times, then at the end of the day, that's what's holding you back.
Yeah. So interestingly, wall balls and all of the technique and the structure and the skill still comes back to, did you pace your race correctly?
Right. Which I wanted to ask you about next.
Yeah.
As far as pacing, because I know it's something you've been working on particularly recently. And I think have you found some good workouts to kind of find your pace and maybe some tips for beginners?
Man, absolutely. I was in a conversation just the other day where me and a buddy were trying to decide like how many HYROX athletes actually pace their race perfectly every time. And I think the answer is nobody. I don't think there's a single person in the world that has figured out how to nail their HYROX pacing. I think it's a very dynamic sport. I think it's very tricky. I think our bodies are dynamic, and even though it's like a set venue, humidity, elevation, temperature, all of that affects your energy systems, right? So all of that to say, I think in general, most of HYROX and those of us who are participating in HYROX are pretty bad at pacing. And part of that is like we just start too fast. I think everybody is starting too fast. If you look at the World Championship, men's and women's races, I think top contenders are still starting too fast.
Wow.
And if they're doing it, I think we're all doing it. And so I'm a big advocate right now, and for myself and for my athletes, to figure out how to like start a little bit slower and build into that race to where like if I'm stopping during the lunges multiple times, or if I'm setting down the wall ball in the wall balls multiple times, it means I didn't quite arrive with the energy I needed to close down that race. And so it's like a game of trade-offs, right? It doesn't really matter if you push the sled fast if you're taking a 15-second break every 10 reps in the wall balls. Like that cancels out any like amazing sled performance you had. So the general thought has always been like, take it easy or fairly easy until sled pull. And then after sled pull, you're gonna like fight from sled pull to burpees. A lot of people try to like hang tight on the row for a second and then close down hard on the rest of the race. That seems a bit vague for me, especially if you can only race a couple times a year. Like that's a great strategy for somebody who is gonna race 10 times in a year. It's hard to race 10 times in a year. I want my athletes to know that when they show up to a race, like they know, I want them to pace it correctly the first time. And that's like asking a lot. Like it's like really hard to do in a race. But so all of that to say, I do think I've come up with a workout that helps my athletes figure out their race pace. And it goes like this. Um, I call it my HYROX long session. A lot of my athletes have done it. It's three 30-minute segments where you're putting like, basically it's like a 4-minute run into a 5-minute EMOM. EMOM stands for every minute on the minute. So over the course of 5 minutes, at the top of the minute, you're going to hit a certain amount of reps, and then you'll rest until the next minute starts, and then you'll do those reps again. So basically what I like to do is over those like 3 rounds of 30 minutes, I'm going to spread out the HYROX stations. So maybe round 1 is going to be like 4-minute run, 5-minute sled push EMOM. 4-minute run, 5-minute sled pull EMOM. 4-minute run, 5-minute burpee EMOM. So I'm gonna like focus on those like key stations. And then then that middle 30 minutes is gonna be 4-minute run, 5-minute like row for cals EMOM. 4-minute run, 5-minute like farmer's carry EMOM. So notice how I'm sprinkling in the stations as EMOM work and not necessarily as like straight through get the reps done work. So here's the sweet spot. In that last 30 minutes, you're going to be tired. And this entire workout, you want to do it as like a mid-zone 2 effort. You want to start like pretty light. And the way that I tell my athletes to do it, I say like, let the work come to you. Like, don't start out thinking like, I'm going to crush this session. Like, start light, act like it's a casual session. And by like in the last 15 minutes in a 90-minute session, you're going to feel it. Like all of those reps and all of that running is going to like stack up and like land on you. And so this is what I say. This is like what I'm going to get to. I tell people, if you do that 90-minute workout, your run pace in your last 15 minutes may show you the pace you should be running at the start of your HYROX. Like with the level of fatigue, the stress your body's feeling from the total reps that you've accomplished, that just like you're dragging, maybe just trying to like sustain this 90-minute effort. Whatever pace you're running at, that intended like zone 2 aerobic run under fatigue, whatever that is, it might translate perfectly to how you should start your HYROX race. That was a lot of information. Does that make sense?
No, I love that, and we should type that out and write that in the comments because it reminds me exactly of 2 different workouts from 2 different disciplines. One is the Yasso 800s. Have you heard of that one? The track workout.
I don't think so.
It's a track workout that's similar design where like the pace you hold for that workout, I forget how many rounds of 800 it is, but should be estimated with the pace you should hold for your marathon or something like that. Cool. Because of the intensity, the stimulus like kind of matches it. So it gives you a rough estimate. And there's another workout in biking, which is an FTP test, which basically it's segmented. So you have to hold a certain wattage for every minute until the end, where it keeps ramping up. So the workout that gets hardest at the end, and then the end wattage that you can hold for that is estimated basically what your max wattage can be for an hour. So it's a way to like so it's a way to slowly ramp up. Here's what's hard. Use that for your hour distance. And same thing with the Yassos. So that sounds. I call that the Greyson 30s.
The Greyson 30s, baby. Yeah.
It's a way for you to find, all right, what should my pace be at that last block? There you go.
And I think with all of those workouts, it's important to not try to do anything heroic, right? Like it's not like the goal isn't to be like to like hit a number that you can brag to your friends about. Like you're not like fighting for your life at a heart rate of 192 trying to run a 330 kilometer pace. So like, this is my HYROX pace. It's like, no, the goal is to figure out like how to start easy enough in your race so that you can close hard. And HYROX is very tricky because I really think that it is clearly an aerobic engine focused sport, but the unique part about it is like where the engine shows up, like where you prove your engine and your ability to close down a race is in the reps. Like, can you keep lunging and can you keep wall balling? So it's very unique in that sense where it's like any track and field race, any cross country race, any biking race, it comes down to like, can you kick, right? And in this scenario, it's like, is your engine still fueled enough and firing strong enough for you to be able to close down these reps? And we all start too fast. So I would recommend to people, like, try that session, 90 straight minutes, start easy, let the work come to you. In the last 15 minutes, pay attention to your run pace, and it may tell you like exactly where to start for your HYROX intensity at the beginning of your next race.
That's fantastic. I'm gonna try it. I'm gonna
Okay.
try and get back to you, and then we can talk about it next time
Okay.
and see how it went. But
Yeah,
that
I
yeah,
love that.
I'll be excited to try that workout. Um, you'll have to send. We'll have to get a text so I know exactly
Yeah.
what to do. Which I had a follow up question on the running. I know you, which is, I love how you said that. How even at the elite level, people are still starting too fast.
Mm-hmm.
So I think like a lot of people, their strategy, whether it's intentional or not, they, to quote my buddy Mark, shout out Mark, start hot, stay hot, finish hot, which ends up being start hot, burn out, and
Yeah.
then survive for the rest of the race. But I feel like that's how a lot of people end up racing: is they start hot,
Yeah.
they go too hot, and then they just try to scrape by and just survive the rest of the race.
Yeah. And I will say there's a little bit of merit to that if you're committed to the process. A lot
Sure.
of us, and I've even had times like, for example, as a like a DECA fit athlete, I wanted to get fast at DECA. So I just decided like I have very few chances to run this race. So I'm just going to hold the pace that I think it would take to win a DECA fit world championship. And if I crack, I will know that I've got more work to do, right?
Sure.
So if
Sure.
you've got multiple races in the year and you've got the opportunity to crack, you'll notice like elite racers in HYROX choose a couple races a year to like see if they can go out hot and hold on. The North American Championship is a great example of that. America's greatest racers, Rich Ryan and Dylan Scott, went out together super hot for the first 2 laps. And they'll tell you like, yeah, they cracked at the sleds. Dylan had to fight his way back. Rich Ryan said he was too far gone. So like these are the best racers in the world that chose to have like, this is my race to just see how fast I can go and how long I can hold on to this pace. Not everybody has that luxury, and we don't all have 10 races a year. So if you're like, man, I really want to run my fastest possible HYROX, I'm going to tell people like, start slow. If by some miracle you have a ton of energy after the farmer's carry, you've got plenty of opportunities to use it, right?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I feel like that's like if you're running a 5K and you burn out and you struggle towards the end is totally different than like if you're running a 5K and then you're coming up on your last like I don't know half mile and you're like I got some energy left in the tank. That's your time to like all right,
Yeah.
let's send it. Let's
Yeah.
really push.
Yeah.
And that's always a better feeling.
Totally. And actually, Matt, maybe we should loop back to some things that you and I know that maybe not all listeners would know. And it's the concept of negative splitting. Like you know
Yes.
what a negative split is, right? So
Yes.
if you've run high school cross country, you know that you've had like a high school coach that was telling you like, hey, this is a 3-mile race. Your first mile needs to be your slowest. Your second is your second fastest. And your last mile should be your fastest. And the reason that's so successful is our energy systems like that better. So instead of saying like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to run a 5:15 mile on the first one, a 5:15 mile on the second one, and a 5:15 on the third one, and saying, no, like let's go like 5:20, let's go 5:15, then 5:10. And you're still going to like, you're going to hit that pace you were desiring, but our bodies like it a lot better if we let that engine build into the work rather than saying I'm going to hold like a flat pace and just like ride the line the whole time. So the trick with HYROX is like, it's not a pure running event. It's not a pure biking event. So you have to figure out like negative splitting is not so much pace based as it is like energy system based, where it's like, I'm going to reserve some energy. I'm going to offer a little bit more energy. Now I'm going to close down with the energy I have left.
Of that. Do you find that like with yourself or with the elites, are people doing a good job of negative splitting their last few runs or no?
Ooh, it's really tricky, and I think that's why I say you can't look at just the run pace
Sure.
to consider whether or not you're like negative splitting the event, because
Sure.
no, most people most people are running quite poorly out of lunges. Like it's really hard to run fast out of lunges, right?
Fair, fair.
Um, and I think we run a little differently depending on how our like systems and musculoskeletal system was taxed based on the movement. Like for burpees, for example, there's not so much of like a muscle group pump. It's more like your heart rate is through the roof, and it's very hard. You're trying to like get your heart rate to come down a touch as you ease into that run. Lunges is the opposite. When you come out of the lunges, your heart rate is lowered, but your quads, glutes, and hamstrings are so pumped that your legs are like wobbly and weird as you're getting into it. So it would be ridiculous, right, to try to like maintain the exact same run pace after
True.
you've just come out of like different mixed modality challenges. So rather, instead of saying like, well, I want my final runs to be faster than my earlier runs, that would be great. I would love that. The data doesn't show that at all. Most
Sure.
people are fastest on run 2, and some of that has to do with course layout, by the way. Not all run lengths are the same at a course, but most people are fastest on run 2, and then they get a little slower from like row through wall balls. But I think part of that, honestly, is they're reserving a little energy to put more work into those final stations.
Sure, sure. Okay, yeah, this was curious on that if that was
Hmm.
if that was true or not. Another example I wanted to put in. Have you ever seen? It's an old movie, but did you ever see the movie Prefontaine, or I forget what the actual title of the movie is, but it's about Prefontaine. The Olympic
Hmm.
runner who was for he ran for Oregon.
Yeah, I
Uh,
think there's a couple movies, but I bet I know the one you're talking about.
because they hit him and his fight were him and his coach were fighting about the negative splits.
But
But
yeah, uh-huh.
he's like no, because he was, I guess, he's stubborn, a great athlete,
Totally.
very gifted, but very stubborn. And his coach was like, "No, you can break this world record. You just have to start slow. You have to start slow." He's like, "No, I'm not gonna start." And they were fighting back and forth, back and forth. And his coach was like doing the math. He's like, "No, like trust me. Like if you run this way, if you go a little slower from the start, you'll actually finish faster." But it just reminded me of you talking about the
Oh
negative
my
split.
gosh.
Yeah,
I
great
actually
movie.
I have a great story. I have a great story of that from myself personally. A few years back, during COVID, I was doing an online challenge called OCR Stars. Hunter McIntyre actually created it,
No
um,
way.
and one of the tests was a virtual 5K where you would like submit your Strava data for like a part of that test. And the first time I went out, so I want to run as close to like a 16 flat 5K as I could. So the first time I went out, uh, and I was like not a great runner at the time in terms of like being a strategic runner. So the first time I went out, I think I ran 16:35, but I had gone out at 5:15. I went out at like a 5:15 mile, dropped to
Mhm.
like 5:20 something, and then tried to close back down, and like just it just didn't have any gas left in the tank. And my last mile was my slowest by a long shot. So you had like two chances to attempt. So I was working at a university at the time, and their head cross country coach was my friend. So he looked at my data and said, like, well, this is a terrible run. And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, go to the same route and start at 5:20. He's like, if you want to run 5:15 pace, he's like, start at 5:20. And he said, I promise you your last mile will be a 5:10. And I was like, a 10-second swing, whatever, let's see. So I did what he said. I came through my first mile at 5:19. My second mile was a 5:15. My last mile was a 5:09. But he's like, right?
Wow.
Like that coach just looking at the data knew, start
Yeah.
a little slower, your energy system's going to like it better with this negative split concept.
That's so cool. Yeah, that's it. That's like exactly from the movie. That's exactly what
Totally.
what they thought. So that's pretty cool. Awesome. Let's see. As far as questions I had for you, I know that was big. And so as far as I think that gives a lot of insight for beginners
Hmm.
on how to get into their first race. I
Did
think
I
that was
answer?
I
Go
think
ahead.
those are the big bullet points. I think that was a
And we
big.
covered all your questions in one long rambling session.
Which was perfect, which was great. Cool. All right, so I think this was a episode full of really good information, from wall balls to pacing to new rules. So I think that people will get a lot of good information out of this.
I think so too.
Cool.
Yeah, very
Awesome.
good. Thanks, Matt. Thanks for your insight there from the PT world on like some squat depth stuff. We should lean into that a little bit more in the future. Let's talk about like what you
Yes.
know that's going to be useful to the HYROXer.
Absolutely. We'll keep doing that, and we'll get Katie on too. Talk about some rehab stuff too. That'll be awesome.
Yeah, I think so. Let's do that one next.
Cool. Awesome. All right. Thank you, Grayson. And Rox Lab, we're signing off.
Thanks, Matt.